says more than you can see, crossed out, more than we can see, comrade. Minisforum made a tablet, and in true Minisforum fashion, they've gone to insanity mode with this tablet. This is the most powerful tablet that I've ever seen in my entire life. And when you put it in your hands, it feels like it. This is the Minisforum V3. This is an AMD-based tablet, and you can game on this. It's ridiculous. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what you can do with this. We're going to talk about if this is a true laptop killer, because it might be for some people. It's a lot faster than my laptop. I'll talk about that as well. But I'm going to talk about what makes this special and a few things that really make it hard for me to justify switching if you're a laptop user, but maybe it won't be such a big deal if you're a tablet lover. We'll talk about all this stuff right after we activate your copy of Windows, but stick around because you're going to want to hear what I have to say about this display, the resolution, and what we can do when it comes to video games. So stay tuned after the break. I'll talk about the screen right after the specs. Thanks to Whokeys for sponsoring this video. Now these are OEM Windows keys. That means that you do your own tech support. You're not going to be relying on Microsoft, and they're generally locked to the hardware. We got a coupon code. Click on buy now. Put in coupon code TS25, hit apply, and that price comes down. Now when you compare that to the outrageous prices from Microsoft, you'd have to buy this many times to equal the price of one regular key from Microsoft. As of right now, this Windows 10 Pro key will unlock Windows 11. We also have Windows 10 Home, Windows 11, you can buy it directly, Windows 11 Home, and we have 2 flavors of Office. Once you're finished, all you have to do is click on your user account up here, go to your user center, click on My Purchase Orders, just view keys and codes, then you can just copy and paste your key, hit start, type activate, click on activation settings, paste it in there, click on next, and you will be activated. So head on over to Whokeys.com to get yourself an OEM Windows key at a price that makes sense. This has got the new AMD Ryzen 7 8840U. And if you're like, oh, another number, 8840, it's like the same thing as the 7840. It's like the exact same performance. So, and it runs it up to 28 watts. You've got a few different modes that you can change, and you can do that either in the UEFI. You can push it beyond that if you want to, but base clock 3.3. Boost clock, 5.1 gigahertz, 8 cores, 16 threads, they're all the big cores. And this is also RDNA 3. When it comes to the integrated graphics, you've got the Radeon 780M. And that thing is freaking ridiculously fast. For instance, my laptop, I've got a 6850U laptop. It's a Lenovo T14. It's great. I cannot play Pillars of Eternity on it. Whereas on this tablet, I can play Baldur's Gate 3 with a lot of the settings on high and ultra. The 7800M in a tablet is ridiculous. Next up, we have 32 gigabytes of DDR5 running at 6400 megahertz. So they've gone crazy when it comes to the speed. Now this one has a 1 terabyte M.2. It's the size is 2280. This is, of course, PCI Express Gen 4. It can use up to 2 terabytes. So if you're going to get one of these, I would recommend that because opening this thing up is not something I'm going to want to do myself. Now, it's not like a little mini PC or a regular computer where it's easy to just take parts off. You know, I wouldn't want to open this thing up. So we have 4 speakers, so quad speakers. It sounds okay. I mean, that's what I usually say about laptops, but it sounds better than most laptops. I'm going to use the headphone jack, but it's great if you're going somewhere and you're playing some emulated games with your friends and you've all got your controllers out and you've hooked up dingly dongle here because you're going to need a dingly dongle with this since it's a tablet and has no ports if you want to plug up all your controllers and stuff. But yeah, you can sit around and play and have audio that comes out that sounds fine. We'll leave it at that. When it comes to networking, of course, it's almost thick enough for there to be a full-size RG45 port on here, but of course, it's a tablet, so ports are not really much of a thing on here. We got Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3 for our connectivity. 50.82 watt-hour battery, and it's 65 watt. The charger's like the size of a phone charger. It's tiny. Must be gallium nitride or something, but yeah, it's really nice. The weight is 946 grams. It's got Windows 11 Pro. All right, now let's talk about what's so special about this. This is not 16 by 9, it's 16 by 10 running at 2560 by 1600, not 1440. Now, what's so special about that? Well, I like the extra real estate. Windows 11 Pro is pretty good when you're in tablet mode. It knows when things are sideways and it automatically switches. The taskbar goes to the bottom and then you can browse your content. Content looks very good. Now, this is a 3-in-1. What does that mean? Well, we got a keyboard here. You can just take it right off. But look at this magnetic action right here. Ready? It connects really well, and it even has that ridiculous AI button. This also has a Ryzen AI chip, if you're into that stuff. 16 tops on that. The total system performance is 32 tops. All right, so this has one of the most beautiful screens. Well, okay, it's got the most beautiful screen I've ever seen on a tablet. I love the fact that it's 16 by 10 and not 16 by 9 for many reasons. I like the fact that it's 14 inch. It's like a good size. It feels like a substantial substantial little laptop replacement. It's 165 Hz, it's IPS, and it has 100% of the P3 gamut. The brightness is 500 nits. It's beautiful. I've been running this, and all the tests you've been seeing, it's running at 40% brightness, which will extend the battery life substantially when you're watching stuff. And I think if you're in a dark environment, especially like us, I keep saying plane, but if you're also in a train and your window's drawn on the side and you're watching this while you're on point A to point B in a very civilized city on a Shinkansen or a bullet train, in a civilized country, I mean, well, then it's going to be great. Now, one other thing that I love about this is it's 2560 by 1600. Now, why do I love that? Games are very difficult to play at 2560 by 1600, even on this fancy AMD Radeon 780M. But there's something that's beautiful about that. Half that resolution is 1280 by 800, and that sounds like a low resolution until you think about the size of the screen. It's 14 inches. 2560 by 1600 is a pixel density that is such that when you're holding it up close and doing things, you don't really see the pixels. You have to like really get in there to see the pixel grid. But when you're playing a game, you generally are going to put the unit back like this, some feet away from your eyes, maybe 3 or 4 feet away from your eyes. So running it at 1280 by 800, still going to give you 16 by 10 resolution, and it will be a lower pixel density, but you're going to be back far enough that it's not going to matter that much. It's going to look about the same. It looks really, really good at 1280 by 800, and 1280 by 800 means the games are going to run a lot faster than 1920 by 1080. If you have a 1920 by 1080 display or a 1920 by 1200 display, cutting that in half actually looks like very low resolution. That's too low. But cutting in half 2560 by 1600 means you can play your games at half resolution and they look beautiful. Why not just run it at 1600 by 900 or some other resolution? Well, you don't want to do that because I wasn't prepared to explain this. I didn't expect you to ask these things. But the reason that you want to do 1280 by 800 is because at that resolution, each pixel becomes 4 pixels. If you were to do 1600 by 900, well, the ratio is not going to add up correctly. And you're going to have some characters whose faces look weird, whose pixels are going to be, it doesn't line up correctly because it doesn't compute. It like things stretch and look strange. So it's not a perfect solution. So all my gaming I'm going to do on this at 1280 by 800 and get a big speed boost. The games I've been playing at this have been at 1280 by 800. The tests I'll do will be at 1080p just so you can compare it to other systems out there just to get an idea of the horsepower, but that's not how you're going to want to play on this machine. You want to do that 1280 by 800. All right, one last thing I almost forgot about the specs. We do have cameras on this. We have a 2 megapixel camera on the front. It does work with Face ID. There's also a fingerprint sensor on the power button if you want to use that. And then also they have their technology that allows you to blur out the background and all that sort of thing. Yeah, on the other side here, we also have a camera. So you can walk around being like, all right, everybody, smile. Where's the button to push it? All right, there. You can walk around like a jackass with this giant thing pretending it's a smartphone and taking pictures. I don't know. Why is there a camera on the back? I would rather have those resources spent for more USB ports, which brings me to the ports on this. No, that's the answer. It's a tablet. What do you want? You want ports? Get out of here. Okay, so on this side right here, all the way at the top there, that is a combo port for your audio, mic, and headphone speakers, whatever you want to plug in. Right there, that's SD card slot. So that's cool to have that in right there on the side, take some pictures. Then we have, that's not USB 4, it looks like it, it's just the shape like USB 4. That's VLink. And this will allow you to take this from point A to point B. Why do I keep opening things? Maybe because the screen's on and I keep touching it because it's touchscreen. Why do I talk like I'm... Oh yeah, VLink is really cool because it allows this to become a monitor. Now why would you want to spend this much money and have this thing be a monitor? Well, that's because from point A to point B, it's going to be your gaming computer while you're riding on your sophisticated Shinkansen or whatever, or your fancy train, hanging out at a coffee shop. This is your computer. You can game on it, do whatever you want on it. And then when you get to your place, you can plug it up and it's an external monitor. So it doesn't just have to stay in your bag. You can still get use out of this, and since it's not like an OLED or screen or anything, you're not going to worry about burn-in. You can use this thing all the time. Another cool use case scenario with the VLink on the side is you could plug it up to your consoles and play your games back just fine on this. And you can also get power through that, as long as the whatever you're plugging it up to can also deliver power. Just have the one cable going into this, and now we have a portable monitor as well as this being a powerful computer. On the other side, it's USB 4, 40 gigabits per second each. And then we have our power button. So if you want to hook up anything else and use this as a computer like I like to do, because I said I want it to be my laptop replacement, well, you're going to need to get something like this and carry it around. This is just a USB hub with Type-C, and this is cool because it also has the Ethernet on the bottom and VGA, all kinds of things, but HDMI. And one thing that's cool about the HDMI on this was that it was able to just work and use the internal graphics. So it wasn't like using USB graphics or anything like that. It was using the 780M to drive the graphics through it, and you can play your games on an external monitor or TV or whatever. So all the USB ports are more toward the top. And if I get something like this that has a tiny like little Look at this dongle, it's not long enough. Since the USB ports are way up toward the top, this thing is going to just be kind of dangling the entire time. It doesn't like touch the ground, or it touches the ground kind of halfway and just kind of sits there and it makes a mess. And there's always going to be kind of a mess of cables coming out of the side if you need to plug in a mouse or a keyboard or HDMI or anything else. If you need to plug in other stuff, you're going to have cables coming out of this thing. I do wish there were more ports. I would trade some of the other features for more ports. I would love to have a regular USB on this. I know we've got USB-C all over, but the ability to simply plug in a mouse without having to use a dongle would be awesome. I know I can get like a USB Type A to Type C adapter, and I might do that because I cannot stand touchpads. Which brings me to the keyboard, which is nice. It actually feels very good. And the keyboard has two different levels that you can snap in magnetically. You can just lay it flat, or you can fold up the top and it'll snap together to the bottom of the screen, and then it'll have sort of a bit of an elevated typing experience. The chiclet keys feel good. I mean, this thing feels premium. Everything about it feels premium. The touchpad is completely usable. I think touchpads are kind of the devil. I never, ever use them. But this one, most touchpads I put into like the category of self-harm, and this one I just put into the category of it's a touchpad and it's there and it works pretty well and it clicks and it doesn't feel floppy or anything like that, but I always disable them. So if you love touchpads, you do you. I would rather touch the screen than touch the touchpad. But it's got one and it works. We also have a stylus. You know, it's got all the stuff. The stylus is nice. The pressure level is 4096 and the protocol is up to MPP 2.0. I don't do styluses, so I don't know all the details about what that means. If you're using this for digital art, it's really handy. I hooked it up with a Sprite and just decided to sit down and draw a couple little happy mountains here, just living here. And they were a little bit lonely, so I decided to draw the sun to come hang out with them. Just threw that together quickly and it works great. You know, you can use one hand to draw, the other hand to zoom in and zoom out. So many different things you can do with it. Hey, new shirt. I'm re-recording this part because I was a bit hard on the stand. I was watching my editing and I was like, you know what, it's not that bad, but let's just do a little show and tell here. I've got a few things. So check this out. This is the V3. This is a Lenovo T14 laptop. It's got a CPU, 6850U, whatever it is. It's about the same. The laptop is a few millimeters thicker, but the laptop is a bit different. And I want to talk about the differences in a laptop and a tablet. So with a tablet, all of the weight, none of the weight is here, all the weight is up here on the top. Now, if you do like I did and fold it up like this, it's going to flop around everywhere. So be careful. It's not like some of the other tablets that I've seen on the market. Like here, I've got another tablet in my hand. We're doing all kinds of show and tell. This one folds up on the bottom and it's stable. That's because the magnet on the top is a lot better. This one folds in a strange way. It folds down from the top like this. The hinge is very nice. Now, when you get it like this, it stays on there pretty well. And it'll stay on the desk pretty well. You know, you can move it around, you can bump it. This is more secure. It's a more stable way to keep it on the desk. However, this is amazing. This does not feel like it goes with this. This is trash. This is amazing.
This is rubbish. This is brilliant.
Some of the competition has an integrated stand that just folds out right here on the bottom and it's metal. And having that integrated stand feels a lot more professional. You know, this doesn't feel anywhere near the same quality as this. It works, it'll do just fine, but that's the one thing that's keeping this from being like the perfect tablet. I don't think it should keep you from buying it, but I do want to say Minisforum, if you make more tablets, you know, maybe consider getting an integrated stand. Another thing about the stand, since it's not a hinge like a laptop, it can only be so vertical. There's always going to be a little bit of a lean to it. And also, since you're folding it down from the top instead of folding a flap out on the bottom, it gives you a bit less of a verticality when it comes to how much it's going to be leaning. I don't think that's too huge of a deal, but sometimes I like to have my, screen almost vertical on my laptop when I'm trying to avoid sunlight coming in through windows and whatnot. But this one can only be so vertical, so you'll have to shift it in other ways if you're trying to avoid sunlight or whatever else. Not too big of a deal, but just something you should be aware of. Minisforum's added some packages to the Windows 11 installation. We have a Minisforum control panel, essentially, and it allows you to access all kinds of stuff. You can access basically just shortcuts to all kinds of Windows settings and everything, your device manager and whatnot. Check out information about your machine, even run Windows Update, all from within this one interface. But the main thing that I'm interested in is the fact that we can go in here and change our performance modes. So inside here we have 3 different performance modes. For the video games, I'm going to do one test at the lower performance mode, and then I'll do a second set of the tests at the full 28 watts. Now you can go into the UEFI and mess around and change things if you wanted to. You can go in there and force the RDNA 3 GPU to always use 16 gigabytes of memory or 8 gigabytes of memory or whatever. You can pick whatever you like on there. I like to leave it on auto because it'll use as much as it can, whatever the system's not. But if you have 32 gigabytes of memory and you're like, I'm going to game a lot, you can go in there and just set that to like 12 and say like, you know what, always use 12 gigabytes of this memory for video memory, and it'll do it. And the memory is plenty fast, so you're gonna have a nice chunk of memory for your video card. But also in the UEFI, you can go and set the wattage. So I wouldn't probably do it like this, but if you wanted to just always run this at 30 watts and get it nice and hot, you can do that. I'm not gonna do that, but you can do that. Let's take a look at our Crystal Dismark score to see if it's keeping up with what they say it should be. That looks pretty good to me. Almost 5,000 on the read and 3871 on the write. There we go. Take a look at these. The read and write IOPS. I'm mostly interested in the random 4K, 108,993 and 109,644. So the IOPS and the read and the write are almost the same, which is nice to see. You know, and at 28 watts here, barely see any difference whatsoever. We go over here to IOPS. There we go. Barely seeing any difference. And then there's our read and write. Maybe a tiny bit of a difference, but it's not much. You'll see more of a difference in multi-core applications and gaming. All right, now we're running at 28 watts, and as you can see, this is our old test and our new test. Our old test was for single core. We'll call it the same, even though it was like 1674 versus 1673 for this test. So, I mean, single core, you don't need all the watts. You need all them watts when we're doing multi-core. And you can see now we have a score that makes sense, that's more similar to what you'd see with the 7840HS. This score is not quite what I saw with the 7840HS mini PCs, but it's so close that it's about the same. I mean, it's basically the same. And we do have a decent jump up just by moving up to 28 watts. Take a look at our Geekbench 6 score. If you're playing along at home, this one's 2519 for the single core and 10721 for the multi-core. Let's scroll down and let you see all of the individual test scores. There's this block, file compression, everything, HDR performance. Look at that ray tracer not doing much of anything. All right, if there's anything in particular you want to see there, go ahead and pause and take a look. And then the OpenCL score, 27202. Scroll down and take a look at all this information here. There's the information about our RDNA 3 graphics card, that AMD Radeon 7800M. Speaking of gaming, I think it's time we try some games. I'm going to try all the games at maximum power because that's how I play my games. And if I'm going to play a game that's not maximum power, I'll play an indie game or something while I'm on a train. Alright, Unigine Valley is looking good. 70.1 FPS. That's only 1 FPS lower than any of the 7840HS CPUs that I tested in a lot of the little mini PCs, and those have a little bit more. I'm impressed with what we're getting here with this 8840U. So the score is 2931 if you want to play along at home and test out your own system. Let's move on to superposition and give that a test. I'm going to take a guess while this is running, and also it looks really pretty. I'm going to guess we're going to get 37, but I'd like to see 38 as the average FPS. So let's see what we get when this is over. All right, I wanted to get 37 and I got basically 37, 36.72. Final score 4909 on DirectX medium setting. So if you want to try this on your computer and just see how fast it is. I want to note that the fastest speed that I saw on any of the AMD Ryzen 7 7840HS CPUs in the mini PCs, which have a little bit more power, they both have the Radeon 780M graphics. In the mini PC, it was running at 3801. In this PC, it's running at 3301 megahertz. And the difference is only about 2 FPS because that one got 38.91 FPS and a score of 5202, and this one got 36.72. So very similar performance. Mario Kart 8 running on the Yuzu emulator, and right now we're getting a steady 60 FPS, but we'll see how it goes once we start running. Notice the shader cache has to build up. So when you start playing this game, it takes a minute for the shader cache to build up. But once it does, it usually runs pretty smooth. We're running okay right now. Every now and then we get a little stutter. But like I said, once the game builds up its shader cache, this will be okay, I think. Yeah, Mario Kart works fine. I'm just going to go ahead and call it right now. We're getting usually close to the 50s to 60s when it comes to the FPS, so it looks really good too in my opinion. We're running at 1x just in case you were wondering. I probably wouldn't run this at 2x, but I mean, you could try whatever you want to try, really. Okay, this runs better than expected, so yeah. Alright, so as long as you just stand right here in this field in this one spot, it's 34, yes. Better than the, it dropped below 20, 25. It's almost there. You know, it stays around 30 a lot of the times, depending on which way you're going. Now, if I change the direction rapidly, it starts building up shader cache. You'll see 7 shaders building, 10 shaders building, and it slows down a little bit. But, you know, I probably wouldn't play this. Handheld mode is actually above 30 FPS, 36 FPS. Drops below whenever we're loading shaders, but after you run around for a minute, that'll build up. So I think you can actually play this game with some minor stuttering here and there if you play it in the handheld mode. And on this screen, handheld mode looks really good because it's a small screen, 14 inches. Alright, so just what I was afraid of, you know. Playing this game at the native resolution of 2560 by 1600 is too much for this. I think the resolution that you want to use is 1280 by 800. But let's see how it looks when we actually play the game here. And again, I'm going to crank this up to high now. There we go. Hi. How's it going? But it looks really good on the actual display. There we go. We can actually play this on high. Probably play it on medium, but playing it on high at this resolution is going to cut all of the mustards. Yes. I thought I was going to get away with it, but I'm not. This is Dragon's Dogma 2, and I'm playing this at 1280 by 800, and I've made my own preset. As you can see, it's mostly like a lower quality preset. This game runs pretty poorly on even my crazy system, so I don't expect it to play very well, but I wanted it to play. I thought maybe at 1280 by 800 it would do an okay job. And you know what? When you're not in the cities, it runs okay. But if you jump into a big fight, like I'm fighting a dragon, and there's just effects flying all over the place, fireballs and lightning bolts and blizzards and every other natural disaster coming out of that sorcerer's ears, I don't know where they come from, and the dragon spitting fire, it can't do it. So while I would like to be able to play every modern AAA game at 1280 by 800, that's not quite feasible. We gotta try all the crazy stuff. Now let's get to something a little more reasonable. And if you're looking for something else to play on this that's ridiculous and feels a lot like Doom Eternal, even though it's not bloody, it's more silly, check out Bears in Space. You got your quick FPS movement, you got your shift dash, you got your double jump, and you got that ass. So you know that this is going to be a ridiculous game. It's a lot of fun, and the movement feels almost exactly like Doom Eternal. The humor for me is hit or miss, but if, you know, humor that's kind of like Borderlands or sort of modern, goofy, over-the-top stuff is your thing, then I think you're really going to like it. Here's a little clip to show you what it's like.
Hey, are you the astronomer nerd I've heard so little about? Yes, it is I, Dr. Astronomer, surveyor of the galaxies and windows everywhere. Yeah, cool. We're looking for a way back to Earth. Can you help us on that?
The gameplay's not like extremely innovative or anything, but if you're looking for something that's, like I said, feels a lot like Doom Eternal, but goofy, Chex Quest is to Doom as Bears in Space is to Doom Eternal, so I'll put it that way, except this doesn't have any corporate sponsorship or anything. It's just zany, ridiculous, over-the-top Bears in Space action. So yeah, it's something that runs really well on this at 1280 by 800. It's Unreal Engine, and you can turn things down to about medium and get a very nice FPS and just have some goofy fun. So check it out. I'll put the link in the description for this game, and thanks to them for sending me over a copy to check out. Alright, let's see how snappy Premiere is. This is Premiere 2024, and we are running this with some 4K video footage here. I'm going to go ahead and change this to the full resolution. Yes, let's get something going over here. I like to just feel, you know, see how it feels, moving around, scrubbing around there. Oh, don't look at all my B-roll. This is all secret stuff. Let's go ahead and make a cut, like right in the middle. Let's put that there. Now I'm going to do a cross dissolve. There we go. We'll stretch that out a little bit to make it painful. Alright, let's just play and just see how this cross dissolve feels. That feels great. Oh, that felt good. Let me do it one more time. And we're doing this at full 4K resolution. Yes. It's rare that I see a computer like this, you know, like, or I guess a mini PC or a tablet that can handle just a simple 4K cross dissolve without too much stuttering. Alright, you can definitely edit 4K videos on this. This is so much faster than my other laptop. I was really surprised at how quiet the system was, even when running at 28 watts and even when pressing the CPU to 100%. It gets warm, stays within spec, but it gets warm. I'm running AIDA64 for almost 23 minutes right now, 100% CPU, just so we can test to see how hot this gets, and I also wanted to see how loud it gets. The noise is so low that it's not even worth talking about. As far as the heat goes, well, it's gotten up to 83.2 degrees. It normally stays around right there, 82, 83. Somewhere in this range. we have it cranked all the way up to 28 watts. You can go into the BIOS or use third-party software, maybe some of the AMD software to turn this up even higher if you like, but let's just see how hot it gets while we're running it at 28 watts. This burns a little bit. That's really freaking hot. Okay, that's enough. I'm like one of those idiots playing that game where they put their hand on the stove. Remember that from a few years ago? Well, now it's going to be put your hand on this metal top vent right here, because that is hot. So AMD's website says the TJ Max is 100. So even though that's red, and we don't like red, it's going to be red above 90. So after almost 19 minutes, here's where we are. And I think as long as we stay at 90, and you're okay knowing that the top of the case gets really hot, like you don't want to touch it until it cools down, then I think you're going to be okay. I'm okay with this because I want that speed. And this is under the TJ Max, so yeah. But it's pretty quiet. I mean, it raised the decibel level a couple decibels. We got 4 big heat pipes in there and 2 very thin 4mm, they call them ultra thin fans. And then to keep things cool and quiet, we have 0.2mm aluminum fan blades plus those 4 heat pipes. It keeps everything cool, and then the heat dissipates out the top. There's 2 fans on the top and they get hot. All right, so that's it. All in all, this is the best tablet. That's it. It plays your games. It does everything. Folds your laundry. Makes your breakfast. That's it. The V3 is ridiculous. The resolution is perfect. The screen is perfect. We've covered all of that. The only thing I really wish would change would be that stand. That's the one thing that's like making me be like, eh. That plus it would be nice to have some expandable storage options that are easy to get to and all that. So having an extra spot for another M.2 would be amazing. Minisforum makes all kinds of cool stuff. I know I'm talking like nonsense at this point, but they make a lot of cool things that are modular and have lots of ports and lots of things. So more ports on this would be amazing. On the sides, more USB would be amazing. And a spot on the back where we could add some extra storage would be perfect. Then everything would be, I mean, there would be no questions. Right now it's the best, but then it would be just like hands down the best, if you know what I mean. And it's like at that point, it's the best tablet, but it's also a very capable laptop replacement. As it is, it's the best tablet and could be laptop replacement. So let me know what you think of this in the comments. Let's check out what's on the store. These are half price. Check that out. How about that? And these are half price for what is today? For the rest of the month, yes. So not much longer. You'll be able to get these for half price, which is a steal. These things feel so good. That's what I'm using right now. I feel a lot like an old IntelliMouse, but they've got a brand new sensor. Well, brand newish sensor. It's my favorite sensor, the 3310. You can get that in white or you can get that in black. And then we also have this water-resistant keyboard. Half price. I love this thing as well. It's what's on my desk. Now this is a membrane keyboard, but I was very selective and made sure I got some nice poppy membrane keys. The benefit for these mainly is the fact that they're so silent and you can spill things on it without worry because it's water resistant. You know, don't leave it underwater all night. It's not waterproof, but it's okay to like spill. It drains out the bottom and you'll be just fine. Also has several different colors you can cycle through just by pressing keyboard keys. You don't have to use any software. So head on over to epicpants.com and check that out, and I'll see you all in the comments. An IPS screen with 100% of the PCI 3D, PC3ID, 100% of the P3, yes. So the pixel density is great for when you're holding it up close. What did I bump into this thing? How did Internet Explorer get open? Oh my God. Internet Explorer Edge, unpinned from taskbar, you son of a bitch.